1, and what a game it was. Dave Stieb of the Blue Jays in control early, getting staked to a 3-1 lead. But then he left the game as Tom Henke came in relief. Mike Greenwell of the Red Sox hit the first pitch he saw for a 2-run home run in the 8th inning. That tied the game at 3. Then in the bottom of the 9th, Kelly Gruber got sawed off, a ball to Wade Boggs, but Mookie Wilson's speed beat the throw, and the Blue Jays won it 3-2. The Sky Dome is open on a beautiful night in Toronto for Game 2 of a 4-game series that will decide at least the current leadership in the tight American League Eastern Division race. Boston and Toronto just separated by 1 game after that dramatic Toronto victory here last night. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Zabriskie, and along with Ray Knight, we welcome you to Game 1 of our ESPN Friday night Major League Baseball doubleheader. Tonight, Boston and Toronto, with Boston still leading. And Ray, how are they doing it? You look at statistically, this team doesn't look like they ought to be in first place, but they are.
Well, you'd think they're doing it with mirrors, but talking to Bill Fisher, their pitching coach, a lot of unsung heroes, especially on this pitching staff. Roger Clemens is the slump stopper. He's the guy that goes out there and stops these other teams every 5th day. But you look at they're hitting .272, which leads them American League in hitting, but they're not producing very many runs. They're 76 home runs, almost half of what Toronto's producing. Stolen bases, 38 out of 76 attempts. They're not a very fast ball club, but what they do is they sacrifice bunt extremely well. They move the runners over from second base, and when they get those runners on base, they're really tough in the clutch.
Well, then you look at the Toronto Blue Jays and you see a team that's really laden with talent, and they have statistics both offensively and defensively. It makes you think maybe they should be in first place, but they're not.
Well, I tell you what, I think this is the most talent-laden team of all of baseball. They're leading the league in home runs and total bases, extra base hits, runs scored, leading the league defensively. But what they don't do, we mentioned execution, they don't do the small things right. Fundamentally, they're not very sound ball club. Runners getting thrown out, advancing to bases, outfielders not hitting the cutoff man. This team should be able to blow this division apart because they do have great talent. Pitching staff with Dave Stieb, Jimmy Key starting to throw well, but they're just not doing anything fundamentally, and until they do, they're going to have a tough time winning this division.
And that close ball game they won in the bottom of the 9th last night, as you saw from the graphic, a rare occasion for them to win that type of a game. Jimmy Key and Dana Kicker going at it tonight, and we'll be back with the start of the game from the Sky Dome in Toronto for first place in the American League East. But right now, back to the Baseball Tonight studio and John Saunders.
Thanks a lot, Stephen Ray. Back to Toronto in just a moment for Game 2 of that series. But first, some news, and it's good news. Ken Griffey Sr. could be joining his son, Ken Griffey Jr., as a member of the Seattle Mariners. He retired last week from the Cincinnati Reds, but today was placed on waivers, which means he can be picked up by any team in all of Major League Baseball, including Seattle. Rosters expand to 40 next weekend, and Griffey hopes Seattle will help him join his son on the playing field. Some other news. Steve Buechele of the Texas Rangers, their third baseman, has been suspended for 3 games by American League President Bobby Brown. He was hit by Chicago's Greg Hibbert last week. Buechele missed 4 of the next 5 games with a back injury, a sore left rib cage. He was ejected from the game. The American League says he will not appeal and will start serving his suspension tonight as the Rangers face the Twins. It's Friday night. So as usual, it's a doubleheader night here on ESPN. Second game from Dodger Stadium. The Mets and the Dodgers both in second place in the National League. But up next is the Red Sox and the Jays from Sky Dome in Toronto. Back to
the Sky Dome in Toronto. And as we get ready for the ball game, let's check out the Sears diehard starting lineup for the Boston Red Sox this evening. Second baseman Jody Reed will lead it off. First baseman Carlos Quintana bats second. Wade Boggs batting third as usual, playing third base. Ellis Burks in center field bats fourth. Left fielder Mike Greenwell, who's picked it up of late, will bat fifth. Mike Marshall, the designated hitter tonight, will bat sixth. Right fielder Tom Brunansky hits seventh. Tony Pena will bat eighth and do the catching. And the shortstop Luis Rivera will bat ninth.
Defense for the Toronto Blue Jays, Junior Felix in right field, Mookie Wilson in center, George Bell in left, Kelly Gruber at third base, Tony Fernandez the shortstop, Manny Lee at second base, Fred McGriff at first, Greg Myers the catcher, and left-hander Jimmy Key on the mound. Jimmy making his 20th start this year, 6'1", 190 pounds, 29 years old. This man can really pitch. He knows how to pitch. He's a master at moving the ball around the strike zone. There you see his earned run average, 4.74, but coming into this year, the all-time Blue Jay earned run average leader with a 3.36. But he throws a fastball that runs away from the hitters, a slow, big breaking curveball, and a changeup that acts like a screwball, and occasionally he'll throw a slider.
Making his 20th start of the year. And Jody Reed, who is just having a sensational season, leads it off for Boston and takes strike one. You see Reed hitting .310, and he upped that a little bit last night with 3 hits, including his 41st double of the year.
Man, he hit 42 last year, Steve, which was 4th in American League, with 41 doubles at this time of the year, on the pace to hitting 50 plus.
Reed, Quintana, and Boggs. And you can see that Jody's been hot lately. Breaking ball fouled off, and it's 1-2.
What you're going to see tonight from Jimmy Key is just a lot of tantalizing slow stuff. Talking to Jim Cott, he says that Jimmy Key reminds him a lot of Tommy John. Just throws a little harder than Tommy John, but you remember Tommy John, basically a lot of sinkers down in the strike zone, change-ups, and occasionally that big breaking ball. So you'll see a guy that throws to the black of the plate, tries to keep the ball down, does not overpower you.
And a fastball away, popped up in foul territory for Fred McGriff, and the crime dog makes out number 1. This ballpark is just magnificent, and it is symmetrical. 330 down the lines and 375 in the alley, 400 to straightaway center. It's a good hitters ballpark, unlike other dome stadiums. But of course, this is a semi-dome because it's open tonight. Retractable roof. So here's Carlos Quintana, who's hitting .304, 7 homers and 54 RBIs. Outside ball 1. This guy has made a difference on this ball club.
He sure has. He is what you call a thinking man's hitter. I talked to Richie Hebner, the hitting coach, and says that Quintana looks for certain pitches in areas.
Well, he got one in an area he liked, and he bangs it up the middle for a base hit. Quintana at first with 1 out.
Well, you'll find most high average hitters hit the ball the other way. Quintana really hits the ball well to opposite field. Here you're going to see this is a fastball, just it's over the plate but a little down, but he hits it right back where it came from, right up the middle. Short stride, keeps his head right on the ball with hardly any movement forward.
So that'll bring up Wade Boggs, who will also go up the middle and the other way far more often than he will pull the ball. And Boggs, who's gotten it going, is up to 309 now. He takes high, ball 1. Boggs 5 home runs and 50 RBIs.
Steve, you mentioned that all the high average hitter, or most of the high average hitters, the George Bretts, the Wade Boggs, the Magadans, Tony Gwynns, they spray the ball around. They look for that fastball out over the plate. Think about left center field if you're a left-handed hitter, right center field if you're a right-handed hitter. Then they adjust to the breaking balls. You'll see Wade Boggs occasionally pull that breaking ball between first and second, but basically he just tries to inside out that fastball the other way.
Low and away, 2-1. And another thing that good hitters like that are not afraid to do is take a strike and hit deep in the count.
And the reason for that is they see more pitches. They see the rotation of the breaking ball, the movement of the fastball, the velocity of the fastball. But guys like Wade Boggs knows that he's going to make contact.
A good hard sinker from Jimmy Key, and it's 2-2.
Well, that just shows you how deceptive he is. Very seldom Wade Boggs swings through balls and misses them completely. I remember the 1987 season, he only swung through like 10 or 12 pitches all season and only hit 2 pop-ups to the infield. So that guy could put the ball in play with the best of them.
Quintana will draw a throw, but not only does he not run very often, he's only attempted 3 stolen bases and been successful once. The Red Sox, as you mentioned in the opening, Ray, just don't run hardly at all. They've only attempted 73 stolen bases as a team. Boggs with a drive to left center field. Mookie Wilson and George Bell, and it's Bell who gets there short of the track. Two out as Quintana goes back to first. It will be a packed house here in the Sky Dome as soon as everyone gets here. And quite a few folks from Boston have made the trip in anticipation of this big weekend series. Ellis Burks hitting .302. He's knocked 13 out and 65 in. And a good off-speed breaking ball for strike 1. Here's a guy with some talent.
Oh boy, Steve, when you think about talent, you think of the Cansecos and the Bo Jacksons. This man can do everything well. He runs well, he hits with power, he hits for average.
Very high down the left field line. Tony Fernandez and Bell, and it's Fernandez who makes the catch. So 1 hit, 1 left in the first for Boston. And after a half inning, no score. Starting lineup for the hometown Blue Jays. Mookie Wilson in center field leads it off. Shortstop Tony Fernandez will bat second. Kelly Gruber, having a fine year, will be at third base batting third. George Bell in left field tonight batting fourth. Fred McGriff, the first baseman, bats fifth. Rookie designated hitter John Olerud will bat sixth. Doing the catching tonight, Greg Myers, he will bat seventh. Manny Lee at second base batting eighth. And batting ninth, the right fielder Junior Felix.
Defense for the Boston Red Sox: Tom Bernansky in right field, Ellis Burks out in center, Mike Greenwell in left field, Wade Boggs at third base, Luis Rivera at shortstop, Jody Reed at second base, Carlos Quintana at first, Tony Pena the catcher, and on the mound, right-hander Dana Kicker. Dana's 4-6, right-hander, 6'3", 180 pounds, 29 years old. Sinker, curveball, slider, changeup. Nothing real fancy. Bill Fisher's trying to get him away from throwing that curveball. He says he has a tendency to want to throw the curveball, and he doesn't have a good one, but Dana has fallen in love with that curveball, and Bill's tried to get him to go basically sinker, slider, and occasional changeup. He usually has trouble early. Case in point, his last start, just 23 pitches he lasted against the Baltimore Orioles.
And there are the numbers from that start. That's why partially Roger Clemens is not starting tonight. Clemens has had a little tightness in the shoulder, and Kicker, throwing only 23 pitches, able to come back, according to Bill Fisher and Joe Morgan, easily on just 3 days rest. We will see. Mookie Wilson leads it off for the Blue Jays, hitting .268, 2 homers and 38 RBIs.
Well, Fish told me he has a tough time getting Dana Kicker keyed down, that he's very hyper, that usually he gets through those first 25, 30 pitches, that he settles down.
And he's high with the first 2 pitches to Wilson, 2-0. Mookie with a big night last night. Not only scored that winning run, but got a big hit for the Jays in their bottom of the ninth 1-run win. 3-0.
Mookie's a consummate team player. I've never heard him complain. He comes to the ballpark, he's in the lineup, he goes out and does a heck of a job. If he's not, he roots for his teammates, always smiling, just very, very positive.
And Wilson, who has stolen 21 of 25 attempts, walks with nobody out. Toronto manager Cito Gaston, Galen Cisco, the pitching coach, next to him. Cito's made a difference in this club since he took over. Jimmy Williams had problems with some of the players on this team, and One of them, George Bell, walking right there past Cito. So here's Tony Fernandez hitting .256, and he takes a strike. Fernandez leading the American League in triples with 16.
Tony's one of those guys that have made a couple of base running blunders recently. Been thrown out at third base twice last week trying to stretch a double into triple.
And maybe having the league lead in triples had a little impact on that effort to go to third when maybe it was ill-advised.
Well, you'd like to think not. You know, there's been a lot said about this Toronto ball club and about them playing as individuals and not collectively as a unit. A lot of that was said Jimmy Williams did not understand a lot of the Latin players and did not communicate with them.
Pena, who will throw anywhere, anytime, from any position, chases Wilson back to first. Fernandez 16 triples, also a new Toronto club record. Tony's getting ready to throw, digging that back foot in, and takes low. 2-1. This guy is another guy who plays the game with great joy. Tony Pena. Wilson is running, and the pitch is driven to center field. Ellis Burks going back. He has room. One out, and Wilson, who was at second, goes back to first.
Well, Steve, that's an example of not executing right there. A hit and run, obviously, to me, Mookie Wilson looking back did not get a great jump. 2-1 count, an ideal situation for a hit and run, and then you hit the ball in the air. What a hitter has to do in that situation is get on top of the baseball and try to hit it on the ground somewhere. You have the shortstop or second baseman, whomever's not covering the bag, moving out there. A lot of holes are created. And then he hits the ball in the air. And that's exactly what we talked about in our open.
Consequently, Wilson still at first. And here's Kelly Gruber, who's hitting .269. He's hit 23 homers, been driven in 85. Ball one. Gruber has had injury problems. When you look at his totals, especially 85 RBIs, and think of how much time he missed in May and when he went on the DL. He's having a terrific year. Ball two. Kicker continuing to fall behind, and you can't do that for very long without having to pay sooner or later.
Not with this ball club. Mistake hitting ball club. Very strong, fast bats. Guys that look for pitches a lot. They'll guess, sit on breaking balls. Gene Tennis, the hitting coach, was one of the best that I've ever seen at doing that. What I mean by that is you get to a 2-0 pitch. If a guy's best pitch is a breaking ball or a slider, and you were apt to get that, you sit on that pitch throughout the count.
There was a good breaking ball, and obviously Gruber not expecting it with the count 2-0. So now it's 2-1.
We'll mention Dana Kicker, not really anything special, but just kind of throws his slider up there. A lot of spin, not real hard. He does not throw his fastball harder than 85, 86 miles an hour.
Joe Morgan on the right and pitching coach Bill Fisher on the left in the Boston dugout. And Wilson running again, and the throw not in time. Pena knew it was only a matter of time. And Mookie Wilson steals his 22nd base of the year in just 26 attempts.
Well, you mentioned hitters looking at 2-0 pitches. Here's a breaking ball, 2-1. Mookie Wilson. To be a successful base stealer, you have to pick pitches. After Kicker threw the 2-0 breaking ball to Gruber, came right back 2-1. Mookie picked a breaking ball and stole the base easily.
3-1 now, and Gruber swinging at ball 4. The ball got by Pena, and Wilson goes to third.
Kicker throws another breaking ball way out of the strike zone. This ball starts out of the strike zone. Tony gets there, but he just kind of overplayed the ball and hits on the heel of his glove. Mookie being alert.
Now they've scored at a wild pitch. And Kelly Gruber down on strikes for out number 2. And there's another little thing. Mookie Wilson at third, less than 2 out. Gruber can't get him home. You got to give credit to Danny Kicker for striking him out, but it just heightens what you talked about the Blue Jays not doing those fundamental things. So here's George Bell hitting .273. George with 20 home runs and 77 RBIs.
Steve, if there's anything that I can emphasize to young hitters, is when you get 2 strikes, you have to do things a little differently. Kelly Gruber swung big at all 3 of those pitches. When you have a runner on third base, and when you have 2 strikes, you have to cut down on that swing. Think about right center field, look for the ball in the strike zone, up a little bit, and drive the ball the other way. You can't go up there hacking the same all the time. Situations dictate your idea and your approach at the plate.
And I think today fewer hitters adjust than they used to. There's George Bell getting fooled by a breaking ball. It's 0-2. Bell has really struggled against Boston pitching this year. He's hit only .154.
Well, he's dropping down and just kind of spinning this breaking ball, and these guys obviously think it's a fastball. They're real tight rotation. A slider is very tough to pick up. Ted Williams said that he would have retired about 8 years earlier had the advent of the slider come around sooner. But you don't see the rotation on good sliders. Kicker dropping down a little bit. These hitters obviously having a tough time picking up that rotation.
Fouled out of play, and the count remains 0-2.
The only way to combat that is, like I said about Gruber, you start thinking right field. Think about hitting that breaking ball down the right field line so that you wait. What tends to happen is that head moves off the baseball, and you don't see it well.
Pena set up outside, but the pitch was inside. A foul ball. Boggs properly went through with the play, but third base umpire Dale Ford making the call, so the count remains 0-2. Here's Dale. Pretty veteran umpiring crew here tonight, with Tim Wilkie behind the plate, Drew Coble at first, Jim Evans at second. That's a foul ball as well, outside third.
Well, Steve, what's happening? Tony Pena going out to the mound. Kicker still throwing the breaking ball, but look, he sets up outside. He just hangs it inside. George Bell staying back, looking for the ball away. When they hang that breaking ball inside, if you're back, look at him staying back on that baseball. Tony Pena immediately runs out to the mound and says, hey, man, let's get that pitch out there. They'll kill you in there.
That's the second time it's happened. And that's flirting with danger. You miss, you want to miss way away. You don't want to miss over the plate. He gets Bell, who just keeps on swinging. 2 strikeouts in the inning. Wilson, who led off with a walk, is left at third. John, we're going to the second inning here in Toronto. And for Boston, it'll be Mike Greenwell, Mike Marshall, and Tom Brunansky against Jimmy Key. Greenwell hitting .282. And it's strike 1. Mike with 9 home runs now. He's hit 2 in the last 2 days, or 2 games that he's played. Grounded to second. Easy play for Manny Lee, and 1 away in the second. Ordinarily, Jimmy Key will get a lot of ground balls, but the first 3 outs in the first inning were all in the air. This is a little unusual. So here's Mike Marshall, the designated hitter for Boston, hitting .313 since coming to the American League. Strike one. Marshall has homered and driven in 3 runs. As a Red Sox player, he came, of course, from the New York Mets after joining the Mets from the Dodgers. Strike 2. And I really think, Ray, that Marshall's swing is well suited to the American League, where there is a tendency to see more breaking pitches than in the National League.
He's always been a good breaking ball hitter. He'll sit on that breaking ball and has that big swing that you see, and has a tough time catching up with a real good fastball, especially middle in. And you're absolutely correct. He has what they call a slider speed bat, which means that his bat, he swings, fouls off the good fastball, and really is right on the mediocre fastball and the slider.
On the corner, strike 3. Outstanding location for Key's first strikeout.
Well, we mentioned how Jimmy Key just works that strike zone. He's just deadly on that outside part of the plate, and maybe that's why he reminds Jim Cott of Tommy John, because he could do that with anybody.
Just live out there. Tom Brunansky now with 2 out and nobody on. And a breaking ball for a strike. Bruno hitting .266, disagreeing with Tim Wilkie on the call. Good-naturedly, however.
Yeah, when you say something, you always end it with a smile.
You better.
If you're smart.
0-2. Well, the Red Sox, 2 big boppers, at least for most of the year, have been their big boppers. Certainly are different home and away. Average is dropping by more than 100 points in each instance for Boggs and Brunansky. Grounded to third. Gruber gets a nice hop, and the inning is over. The Red Sox go in order here in the second. Still no score. It's 1.5.
Detroit, the Tigers hosting the American League West, leading Oakland A's, and the Tigers strike first. Scott Sanderson to Cecil Fielder down the line past Lansford. Phillips comes in to score. 103 runs batted in on the season. You can see those 2 teams here Sunday night on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Let's get back to Stephen Ray.
Thank you, John. No score as we go to the bottom of the second inning, and Fred McGriff will lead it off for the Blue Jays, hitting an even .300. And an easy play for Quintana, who flips it over to Kicker, who got over there very quickly for out number 1. Dana Kicker traditionally in his young career struggles in the early innings. Well, he did walk the leadoff hitter, Mookie Wilson, but he has now retired the last 4, including 2 strikeouts. And now he will face the rookie designated hitter, John Olerud. Hitting .273, 13 homers and 44 RBIs, and he takes a strike. Olerud was an outstanding pitcher at Washington State University in college and has never played in the minor leagues.
That's really amazing. His father's a doctor. You know, he had the brain aneurysm, really struggled with that, and then came back and had a great year in college. But the Toronto Blue Jays did not feel that they could miss with this young man. Great bat, good bat speed. A lot of people say he reminds me of a young George Brett. But if he couldn't hit, they felt like he could pitch.
That's right. Put him in relief. So either Cito or Galen Cisco can make use of his talents high and away. And that's another thing that really has been impressive about him. He hit .385 last year at the end of the season when they had him up. right out of college, really. He didn't even go to the minor leagues, but his idea and knowledge of the strike zone been very impressive. Loops one into center field. Ellis Burks coming on. No, he didn't make the catch. Olerud on with a bloop single with 1 out.
That's a great point that you make as you look at John Olerud. Great discipline at the plate. Goes deep in the count. Gets the 3-2 a lot, which is a great hitting situation. But right here, because of AstroTurf, this is why that play was not made. Had that been on natural turf, you'd have seen Ellis Burks dive for this ball. But you dive on AstroTurf, you get a lot of rug burn, elbows just get really almost just like you sliding on pavement.
So,
excuse me, Steve.
Greg Myers, the hitter.
I still believe you have to slide and catch those balls. I tell you what, I hate to see people start playing cautiously on turf. You can slide and...
Well, not to make excuses, but the other factor is that outfielders are always, especially if they don't have turf in their home park, afraid of the ball bouncing over their head.
That's a great point. Absolutely.
You know, and it does take your aggressiveness away. There are other reasons not to like the turf also, but when you have dome stadiums, you don't have any choice. This one's looped into short left field, and Mike Greenwell comes on, but there's plenty of hang time for out number 2. Let's go back to the studio again, and John.
In a battle of first place teams, but Jack Armstrong continues to struggle. First inning, this is Sid Bream, knocks it into right field. Wally Bachman scores. Bell comes in as well. The Reds have scored a run on a sac fly, but they're down 2-1. Let's get back to Steve and Ray.
Those Pittsburgh Pirates just keep on keeping on. Here's Manny Lee hitting .232 with 6 homers and 30 RBIs. Olerud still at first with 2 out. No score. We're in the bottom of the second. And it's high, ball 1. Lee has had a weak second half at the plate. He's hit only 176 since the All-Star break. Strike 1 and a snap throw to first, but Olerud not going anywhere. John has attempted 2 stolen bases unsuccessfully. Pena does not know that, nor does he care. He's going to throw. Good breaking ball. 1-2.
Well, Danny Kicker, this is the first breaker curveball that I've seen. The pitch that goes straight down. Every pitch he's thrown other than that has been either the sinker or the slider. Has not really thrown a changeup. Did change up off the slider to Kelly Gruber.
There's another breaking ball fouled back. 1-2.
We mentioned Bill Fisher had talked about Dana throwing about 30% curveballs. Has a tendency to drop down on that curveball, getting his elbow underneath it instead of on top of it, and comes in there kind of flat. So these guys been hitting bullets all over the ballpark on it.
When they come in there flat, they go out real straight and fast. Fastball line to short, snagged by Luis Rivera, and the inning is over. 1 hit, 1 left in the second for Toronto. Tight, as you might expect, at the Sky Dome. No score after 2. We don't have any crooked numbers to show you yet as we go to the top of the third. No score, just a hit apiece in game 2 of this big 4-game series in the American League East. ESPN's Baseball Tonight. Steve Zabriskie and Ray Knight with you from the open Sky Dome. And it opens all the way back to about the foul poles, just a little beyond, so that most of the field is under the night this evening instead of under the dome. Tony Pena leading off for Boston takes a strike. Pena hitting .249, 6 homers and 41 RBIs.
Never again.
Towards second. Another easy play for Manny Lee, and quickly one out in the third. This ballpark is sort of an engineering marvel, and we were here this afternoon as they were retracting the roof, and they do that sort of in sections. And it's amazing that that much tonnage can be moved so easily. And the way it's designed, it's virtually silent when they do it. Luis Rivera with a shot up the middle for a base hit. Only the second hit for the Red Sox, and only the third hit of the game. Of course, the area of this facade, this structure, that has gotten most of the publicity has been the hotel in the outfield, especially those rooms that face the ballpark where certain amorous adventures have been known to take place, with the scrutiny of television cameras, binoculars, spy glasses, and other things. Sometimes you wonder if people leave the blinds open on purpose.
Well, I think that everybody that witnessed that, talked to a couple people that were from Toronto, no doubt in their mind that it was on purpose.
And then for about 2 weeks after that, everybody who came to this ballpark paid very little attention to the game on the field.
Yeah, they wanted to rent that room.
The people in the stands were scanning those rooms, wondering what they were going to have a chance to see. But there's a restaurant out there in the hotel that looks out, and a club, and it's magnificent. And you can get one of those rooms that face the field. You have all your friends come over, provided you're willing to take a second mortgage to do it, because those rooms don't come cheaply. Jody Reed popped out in foul territory to the first baseman McGriff, leading off the ball game. Rivera at first with one out as he's chased back.
Jody Reed, like Wade Boggs from Tampa, Florida, played at the at Florida State University.
That'll be out of play. 0-2.
Under coach Mike Martin from 1982 to 1984. Graduated from there in 1985 with a degree in criminology.
So I guess it was only appropriate in the first inning that he would be retired by the crime dog.
That's probably why this team doesn't steal much either.
That's right. Jody's around. Looped into right center. Junior Felix. And two away as Rivera goes back to first. Well, again, this is game one of our Friday night doubleheader, and game two will be coming your way as soon as we're through here in Toronto. It'll be the Mets at Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers. And even when the Mets are not fighting for the lead in their division, that's always a great rivalry, spawned from the fact that, of course, the Mets in some respects replaced the Dodgers in New York after they moved west, but because those two teams have been contenders of late. So that's our game next. Los Angeles hosting the Mets. Carlos Quintana, the hitter, takes ball one. Quintana with a base hit to center field in the first inning.
As with a lot of hitters, Steve, watch how Quintana gets his weight on his backside. He sets up, and then when the pitcher delivers, he rocks back and gets that weight over on his right side. Left as you're looking at the camera, but his right side. George Brett does that extremely well. A lot of the guys that kick their leg, Kelly Gruber does it, Kirby Puckett.
Well, the fact is that you've got to go back before you can go forward somehow, however you do it. Got to have some type of trigger. On the corner, Jimmy Key lives out there, and it's 2 balls and 1 strike.
I think the greatest example of that is George Bell. We'll get a shot at him later, his next at bat, and watch how he shifts that weight on the backside. You cannot swing the bat by your weight going forward. It causes your balance to change. It causes your hands to move forward, and you end up pushing the bat through the strike zone. You said you have to have a trigger. You have to cock that bat, just like throwing a punch. You don't throw a punch with just a dead fist. You throw it by somehow starting that fist back and drawing it back and then exploding. And that's the same way you hit a baseball.
Sounded like he might have broken his bat. Manny Lee's been busy tonight, and he takes care of Quintana. And the Red Sox in the third inning. 1 hit and 1 left. In the middle of the third, we still have no score.
All the Expos hosting the San Diego Padres. Padres strike as Dennis Martinez to Roberto Alomar, scoring Bip Roberts. Roberts had just stolen his 30th base of the season. 1-0 is the score in the third. Back to Stephen Ray.
Thank you, John. Here we're going to the bottom of the third. And Junior Felix, the 9th man in the order, leads it off for Toronto, hitting .271 with 11 homers and 49 RBIs. And that's high, and it's ball 2. And Junior Felix, sometimes people wonder, well, how are guys discovered? How do they get to the big leagues? How do scouts find them? There's an unusual story about how Junior Felix was discovered. And it happened in San Pedro de Macorís, the hotbed, Ray, of talent, really, in the Caribbean.
Yeah, the scout Epi Guerrero, who is the scout for the Toronto Blue Jays, was down there watching a baseball game in one of the fields there, and he looked behind him at a track meet. And in that track meet, Junior Felix was competing, and he won the 100-yard dash by about 6 or 7 strides. So it got Epi's attention. He goes over and talks to him, and come to find out, Junior had not played baseball since his childhood days. He tried him out, ran him again, timed him, and Junior was so impressive that he signed him to a contract at 16 years old. And what that tells you, Steve, is that scouts now are looking for athletic ability. It's not the guys that hit the baseball the farthest or that feel great. It's the guys that can throw and guys that can run.
And if you're a good athlete, a lot of times they feel, especially if they can sign you at 16, that they'll find out soon enough if you can play the game. And if you have the ability, they'll teach you the fundamental things you need to know.
Well, you're right. You can do so much with speed. As an outfielder, you can run down so many balls, and as a hitter, all you have to do is make contact. You make a little bit of contact, infielders have to play you in to respect that speed, and that opens up more holes, especially on AstroTurf. The ball gets by you so quickly. But when I came along, they looked for a guy that could hit with power, field, and throw. Because AstroTurf really had not settled in yet. But now they look for those guys that can burn it, and guys with great arms, and they feel like they can teach you to either pitch or to catch the ball and swing the bat.
Mookie Wilson, who walked, stole second, went to third on a wild pitch, and was stranded there in the first inning. Now with a count of 2 balls and 1 strike. Junior Felix at first with nobody out. Foul back, and it's 2-2. Mookie, since the All-Star break, is hitting .326. Last August, he hit .331 for Toronto. And in interviewing him on SportsCenter before the game, we were kidding him about that they should call him, you know, they talk about Mr. October and that. They should call him Mr. August, I guess, because that seems to be what the Mookster does almost every year. Get hot in August. And that'll be out of play. Still 2-2.
Well, he does so many things well. He's an offensive catalyst. He's an igniter. He's a guy that hits the ball extremely hard, a free swinger, occasionally pop a home run for you, but when he hits the ball in the gap, I used to love to watch Mookie run. A solid outfielder, been slowed down a little bit with that shoulder surgery that he had, doesn't throw as well as he once did.
Junior Felix running, and the pitch fouled off again. So Felix, who had a good jump, will go back to first, and the count remains 2-2. Mookie fundamentally in the outfield is as solid as you can get. And you're right, the thing that's hurt him in the last few years has been the reduction of his arm strength. But what a joy he is to watch go from first to third. Reminiscent of watching Willie Mays run from first to third. Just reckless abandon. Just flat out. Felix goes again. The pitch in the dirt. Safe. Junior Felix with his 12th stolen base of the year. And that was a tough pitch for Pena to throw him out on. Morgan's going to come out and argue the call, but he's going to ask Luis Rivera first if he really has an argument.
Well, we're going to see it here again. It looked like a changeup that went down on that curveball he finally threw. Pena made a great play, comes up, throws a bullet. The ball is bare about the same time. He looks like his hand gets in there just a little bit before he tagged him on the helmet. You got to realize you've got about 18 inches or so from your elbow to your helmet, and Rivera just tags him right on the helmet as he slides in, and I believe his hand was on the bag.
A very close play, and consequently Joe Morgan wants to make his point.
Well, he went right to Rivera first to ask Rivera, what do you think? And obviously Rivera must have told him, I got him, Skip, because then he went directly to the umpire. Most time the manager runs out there and don't ask the player anything.
That's right. Just runs out there to get his point across. Well, look at the pickup by Pena, though. Those soft hands. Had Pena not made that kind of a play, it wouldn't even have been close at second base. I don't know. I kind of thought he got him. There's a pickoff attempt on Felix. And now Rivera's going to try the hidden ball trick, but to no avail.
Well, it was one of those plays that was so tough to call. It was bang, bang. I just looked at the way he tagged him. And umpires, if you put the ball down in front of the bag, immediately they'll call the guy out. But if you put it there and you wait on him and it hits his helmet.
Mookie didn't think he went, but Dale Ford punches him out on the strikeout. And Mookie's not one to get very upset about anything.
Another one of those sliders. Usually on the replay, it always shows the hitter swinging. Let's look here. Keep your eye on the front of the plate. The front of the plate is the barometer. If you break that plane in front of the plate, they usually call it a swing. Mookie didn't believe it, but it's funny on replay. I know a lot of times I'd go back and look at the replay knowing that in my mind I'd held up, but they always call that pitch a strike.
Yeah, and you know, the angle that you see from the camera down the third baseline is a more severe angle really than the umpire has, so it makes it look even more like the hitter went around than the view the umpire actually has standing right on the line. A strike to Tony Fernandez. One out with Felix at second.
Steve, not to hammer it, but I think it's so important with these Blue Jays when you look at their talent. Again, a runner on second base with nobody out. Mookie failing to make contact and getting that runner over to third base. And that's so important. Three fundamental things already tonight. Failure to get the runner in from third base. Then failure to get the runner over. I guess that's two things.
Well, the way it's going, just wait a minute. There'll be 3 or 4 probably. But that has been the story of the Jays this year.
And then I know what it was, the failure of Kelly Gruber to make contact.
Absolutely. Gruber strikeout in the first inning, a big out with a runner at third. 2-1 now to Fernandez, who fly deep to center in the first inning. Tony Fernandez is not ready to challenge Eddie Yost as the walking man of baseball, but he has improved from 29 walks last season to 61 already this year. Baseball tonight here on ESPN. Steve Zabriskie and Ray Knight with you from the Sky Dome in Toronto. The American League Eastern Division lead on the line this weekend as Boston leads Toronto by 1 game. 2 in the loss column, and they're going at it in game 2 of a 4-game series here tonight. Just outside with a breaking ball, and it's 3-2. No score in the bottom of the third, 1 out, and Junior Felix at second. Into right center field. Brunansky drifting over, and 2 away as Felix has to hold at second. And that'll bring up Kelly Gruber. Now there's a fly ball that had Wilson been able to make contact and gotten Felix to third. Junior with his speed might have been able to score. Even though it wasn't very deep, it was probably deep enough. But he's still at second with 2 out for Gruber, who takes a breaking ball for strike 1.
Well, Steve, baseball is a game of situations. You often hear us say in this situation, when you're up there and a runner on second base and you do whatever you have to do to get the runner over. Now, it's very tough when you have 2 strikes like Mookie did. But when you're a bunter, you're a bunter. When there's a guy on third base, a situation you look for a pitch to hit the ball in the air.
Luis Rivera throws out Gruber, and the inning is over. A walk, a stolen base, 1 left again in the third for Toronto, and still no score.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Isuzu. For features, styling, and price, there's no comparison. By Consort, America's #1 selling men's hairspray. And by Days Inns. Days offers great rooms, great value at over 1,000 great locations.
The game continues to be tight through the first 3 innings. No score. Hits are 2-1 in favor of the Red Sox, and Boston will have Wade Boggs leading off the 4th inning. Boggs flied out to deep left center in the first inning. And Jimmy Key is up high for ball 1. Outside, ball 2. Key has given up just 2 hits, struck out 1, and walked no one through the first 3 innings. At the knees, 2-1. Boggs hitting .371 over his last 24 games, and .337 over the last 62 to raise his average now up over 300. Out of play, 2-2.
Well, Steve, he's had 200 hits for 7 straight seasons. Thus far this season, he has 147 hits. So he needs 53 more hits in the remaining 39 ball games in order to eclipse for the 8th year that 200 hit barrier.
And you can see that he has walked a great deal as well. Gets jammed here and rolls it to Manny Lee, who has certainly had his work cut out tonight, although they've been easy plays. Let's go back to the studio and John Saunders.
Indians and the Orioles. Cal Ripken on his birthday here in the 3rd inning. Mike Walker to Ripken. This is a double. Scores his brother Billy and Brady Anderson as well, as the Orioles jump in front of the Indians right now. Let's get it back to you. Baltimore leading 2-0 in the 3rd.
And here we're still looking for a run as Ellis Burks comes up with 1 out and nobody on. Burks popped out to short to end the first inning, and he takes a ball. Ellis hitting .321 over his last 26. The Red Sox are hitting for average. 1-1. And as we've said, in contrast to the Blue Jays, even though they haven't been doing much in the power department, they've been scoring runs because they have been doing those fundamental things and taking advantage of those hits and the guys that have gotten on base.
Well, in the past, the Boston Red Sox have been a team that everybody picked to win the pennant. They've been close so many times, losing heartbreaking games to a lot of different years to the Yankees and then to us in '86, the Mets. But this year, I don't think anybody really expected them to do a whole lot. I know that they weren't picked to win it. Toronto was picked by most ball clubs to win it. Baltimore, because of their showing last year. But that man right there, Joe Morgan, has put together a ball club that just refuses to be denied. Talking to Mike Boddicker and Clemens before the ball game. These pitchers, the Boltons that have come up to Greg Harris with that big curveball. Gray has come up with that split finger. Have done an outstanding job for this pitching staff.
Playable in foul territory for Tony Fernandez, out number 2.
The only real constant on the pitching staff has been Roger Clemens. Mike Boddicker got off to the great start, struggled. His last 4 outings has been outstanding. Lost that 1-0 ball game. The Boston bullpen there. But they traded Lee Smith because they thought Reardon was the man. Now they don't have a stopper. They tried Rob Murphy. He really struggled. There you see Dennis Lamp, who's been very consistent for them as a middleman.
Mike Greenwell, the hitter. Well, the trade of Lee Smith is probably one thing that could be looked upon as something that, you know, may really hurt them as they get down the line unless they can find somebody to be a stopper. They went ahead and acquired Reardon before they even had any decision made about Smith. And take a look at the bullpen. They got the worst bullpen in the American League as far as earned run average is concerned, while they have the best earned run average of starters. Of course, Clemens has a lot to do with that in Boddicker's success. But Lee Smith's absence, if the Red Sox don't win it, can be one big thing, not the only thing, that could be pointed to. A rocket off of the glove of Manny Lee. We'll see how they scored. It was a sharp one-hopper. And it'll be a base hit for Mike Greenwell.
Well, Greenwell just jumps all over this sinker, goes down, low ball hitter, and just hits a bullet. Ball just jumps off into Manny Lee, but Manny Lee just didn't have much of a choice. He tried to get over to that ball, but as you stated, that ball was smoked. Mike Greenwell really starting to drive the ball. We mentioned the 2 home runs in successive nights. Now driving that ball. Seems to me that he's starting to stay back more.
Well, his ankle is not bothering as much as it was, and from talking to him before the game, that was the big reason in his mind why he's swinging the bat so much better.
Well, early in the year, Steve, when I saw him, he was really jumping out on that front foot and dragging the bat, hitting a lot of lazy fly balls to left field. Now he's starting to stay back and hitting the ball hard like Mike Greenwell can.
Mike Marshall looked at a called 3rd strike in the 2nd inning, and he drives one deep to left. George Bell back, and he has room, and the inning is over. 1 hit, 1 left is becoming the norm in this game. Still no score in the 4th.
Detroit, the A's trying to hold off the Tigers, but Detroit adds another run against Scott Sanderson. Breaking ball, Travis Fryman just fights it off. They can't get to it. Chet Lemon comes in to score. Tony Phillips trying to get to 3rd. He's dead there as Lansford applies the tag. We're back to Stephen Ray.
Thank you, John. We're going to the bottom of the 4th inning. No score here in Toronto. And George Bell to lead it off against Dana Kicker. Bell struck out swinging to end the 1st inning. And he hits the first pitch down the right field line. Tom Brunansky, and 1 away. Bell struggles against Boston more so perhaps than any other team in the American League. He has his lowest career average against an opponent against Boston. Fred McGriff hit the ball to first baseman Carlos Quintana for the first out of the 2nd inning. And he takes a strike at the knees. One and one. And a foul ball makes it 1-2.
Fred McGriff, another guy with a great idea at the plate, Steve. Had 119 base on balls last year. Up there with the league leaders again this year. Amazing stat about that man is that almost 50% of all of his base hits have gone for extra bases.
Well, he's just stronger than the average crime dog. I mean, he's, you know, he's got muscles on muscles. He doesn't look real imposing when you look at him. He doesn't, you know, have a body like Glenn Allen Hill of the Toronto Blue Jays. Looks like he could take a telephone pole up there and swing it, you know. And they're, you know, big George Bell is an imposing guy physically, but McGriff has tremendous strength.
We mentioned getting that weight on the backside. Lee, I mean, Fred has a tendency to just kind of rock back really slowly. Watch his shift right there. Gets that weight back.
That is the third walk issued by Dana Kicker. And McGriff will be at first base with 1 out for John Olerud. Olerud over the last 22 games hitting .306. His average up to 273 starting play. And with his base hit to center, his first time up, now hitting .275. He's got a shot to be considered as Rookie of the Year in the American League. Fouled off. 0-2.
Well, you mentioned that John played at Washington State University. His father, we mentioned, was a doctor. What we didn't mention was his father was an All-American catcher at Washington State, is in the Washington State University Hall of Fame. And a lot of people wondered about animosities toward John Olerud by signing that big contract coming right out of college. But talking to his teammates, he's a guy that just so easy to get along with.
He is. He's very quiet. I think John's the kind of guy that if you see him on the street in regular street clothes, you would not consider him to be a baseball player or maybe even an athlete. I mean, he's very athletic, but he just doesn't appear that way. He's very unassuming on top of his physical demeanor. Weakly grounded to first. Quintana will go to the bag. 2 out as McGriff goes to second, and we go to the studio. John Saunders.
The Cubs and the Braves in the defensive play of the night. Mark Grace slices it out to left field. Odeby McDowell dives to earth, comes up with the grab, keeps it 2-0. The Braves are still up. Back to Stephen Ray.
Oh, to be able to do that. Oh, to be able to run again. Not a bad play. Greg Myers flied out to short left field in the second inning. Ball 1. Myers, the guy that they're looking to primarily to take over for Ernie Witt, who had so many fine seasons here in Toronto.
Well, with 2 outs, you see the infield defense. Rivera at short and Jody Reed 3 steps behind the second base stripe, or the outfield stripe there. Knowing that they have to knock the baseball down, Myers hits the ball hard on the ground. Quintana also back very deep. Outfield playing basically straight away and not too deep.
Way high and inside. And it's 3-0 now to Myers.
Another one of those key little things, though. You mentioned I mentioned the infield being back. Getting as much lateral movement as possible on those bounding balls on AstroTurf may enable you to knock the ball down and keep that runner from scoring. Look how far Jody Reed is behind that line.
Greg Myers swinging at a 3-0 pitch. A mild surprise, and it's 3-1.
Well, some guys can do that. I never really felt real good about swinging at a 3-0 pitch because usually you get a little over aggressive. Some guys can do it. Gary Carter was really great at it. Johnny Bench, I remember, was outstanding at it. Tony Perez. But I got a little over anxious. I get a 3-0 hit sign and I'd have a tendency to jump at the ball, swinging a pitch a little bit out of the strike zone, overswing, try to hit the ball too hard.
Ball 4. 2 walks in the inning. And with 2 out, runners at first and second. That is the 4th walk that Kicker has allowed, as we have no score here in the bottom of the 4th.
That was just a situation right there where Dana Kicker did not want to throw to Greg Myers. With first base open, runner on second base in scoring position, he wanted to just start it all over with Manny Lee. Mentioned Manny Lee struggling with the bat this year.
Manny lined out to the shortstop Rivera to end the 2nd inning. And another one of those good overhand breaking balls for strike 1. Kicker hasn't thrown them very often, but they have been effective.
They have been, and I think that's what Fish wanted him to do, is throw it less frequently. As a result, the hitters could not sit on it because it's an off-speed breaking ball.
And he gets a fastball at the knees for strike 2. So now he's got Manny Lee wondering what to look for next. But he's already thrown 73 pitches in 3 2/3. And on 8 of the hitters he's faced so far, he has gone at least to 3 balls. Plus, he has walked 4.
Well, that's the kind of pitcher he is, Steve. He's not the kind of guy that comes right at you. He's a nibbler. And guys that don't possess that great stuff sometimes feel they have to nibble. They start getting the ball over the plate. People rack attack it, so there's a reason for it.
Breaking ball, fouled off.
You know, an interesting thing about Dana Kicker, he spent 7 years in the minor leagues, never had a winning season. 59 and 66 in the minor leagues. And 1 year in 1985, he was 12 and 12 in A-ball in Winter Haven. But he persevered, and with the lack of pitching on the Red Sox, here he is in the big leagues. Still not to 500 yet, but doing one thing that a staff has to have. He's piling up innings like 4th and 5th starters have to do.
And he gets laid a swing at 1 in the dirt. Pena pounces out and gets him at first to complete the strikeout and end the inning. 2 walks and 2 left here in the 4th inning. 4 in the books and still no score. Those Athletics, they just won't lay down for anybody, will they? Here it's no score as we go to the 5th inning. Bottom of the order for Boston, and Tom Brunansky to lead it off. Bruno grounded to 3rd his first time up, ending the 2nd inning. Brunansky, Pena, and Rivera against Jimmy Key, who has allowed 3 hits but no runs.
Well, the Red Sox haven't hit a lot of home runs, but that man Tom Brunansky sure is capable. 8 straight seasons with 20-plus home runs. He had a high of 32 in 1984 and 87 with the Minnesota Twins. He just hasn't gotten it going here with the Red Sox.
Oh, baby, he got it going into Tim Welke's mask, and that dropped Tim to 1 knee. That's part of the job. Hazard duty pay not included.
It's just a high fastball and that goes right square on the forehead there.
Rarely do you see a ball completely rip the mask off an umpire or catcher's head, but that one did. Man, go get your fillings checked tomorrow. Way high. 2-2 to Brunansky.
What Jimmy Key's doing is what he does so well. He shows that fastball in on the hands and then goes up in the strike zone and comes back with something soft down and away. Let's see if he goes to that same pattern here and throws something soft away.
He did. The breaking ball down and away to get Bruno for the first out of the 5th inning. Strikeout number 2 for Jimmy Key.
This is a big breaking ball. He starts it out the back door and comes almost to the middle part of the plate. Brunansky out in front a little bit. Watch his hands start forward, and the ball doesn't even come to your picture till he's halfway through his swing.
Great pitch to throw big swinging power hitters in that situation. Tony Pena grounded to second. 0 for 1, and he takes low.
Well, Steve, I learned early in my career, and pitchers have to learn that too. Obviously, they learn it. The fact that almost all major league hitters can hit a fastball. I don't care how hard you throw it. You throw it 92, 3, 4, or 5. Unless you locate it, they're going to catch up to it. But they have a tough time adjusting down.
Over the head of Jimmy Key and through the middle as it got by Fernandez, who looked like he might have a shot at it. A base hit for Pena.
This ball is a bounding ball over Jimmy Key, and what happens, Tony Fernandez gets over there, but the ball hits the dirt and does not bound up as it did on the AstroTurf. He read the hop before. The ball is bounding on the AstroTurf. Watch it hit here and take a high hop. Then it hits the dirt and stays down, and his mind is telling him that the ball is going to bounce up because that's the last thing it saw.
Luis Rivera, the hitter, as Pena draws the throw. Tony will run once in a while, but he has a very poor percentage of success. And he's only 3 for 9 in stolen base attempts. He had him going back to first base on that pitch that Rivera fouled back.
Well, Jimmy Key has an outstanding move, almost a balk move. He brings that his right leg up to the pitching rubber and almost crosses that plane. Then gives you just a slight hesitation looking right at you, and it takes a lot of nerve to get off that bag with a guy looking right at you and kicking that leg toward you.
Right in there. 0-2 to Rivera. It's a moot point now with 2 strikes, but I don't know if you might not want to have Rivera come up and bunt in this situation, even though it may be a little early in the game. But the way the game is going, it might not be too early to try to get a runner over there, even though there'd be 2 out. Strike 3 call.
Yeah, Steve, I don't like bunting with 1 out. You know, a hit and run or something like that to create an offense, but with 1 out, you're only getting 1 shot. Here, Jimmy Key comes inside with that fastball, and that's what happens when you change speed so effectively. Throwed Rivera a big breaking ball, a slider, a changeup away, and that fastball, although it's 84 miles an hour, looks like to that hitter about 90 because you're sitting on that soft stuff.
The element of surprise. You can see Rivera sort of lean out looking for the pitch away.
He had no chance.
He got busted inside for strike 3, and now it's Jody Reed. Ball outside. Reed 0 for 2 is popped out and flying to right.
You know, when I used to face Fernando Valenzuela, I would be shocked when I go back and look at the pitching charts when his fastball would be 87, 88 miles an hour. He throws you so much off-speed stuff with that screwball 2 or 3 different speeds away that when he popped the fastball, Steve, it seemed like it was about 95. So I'd go back and look at the chart, and they'd say 87, 88 miles an hour, and that just goes to show you what happens when you're lulled into seeing a lot of soft stuff. When a guy can pop that fastball in on your hands with location.
And Jimmy Key not overpowering tonight, according to the gun, which in my mind is always suspect. He has just reached 90 miles an hour on 2 pitches.
Well, that's still really good for him because you have to realize in '88 he had shoulder surgery, in '89 he had elbow surgery, removing bone chips, partial tear in his shoulder in 1988.
Fouled off the end of the bat. 2-1. We're in the Sky Dome in Toronto, Ontario. ESPN's Baseball Tonight. Steve Zabriskie and Ray Knight with you for Game 1 of our Friday night Major League Baseball doubleheader. Game 2 will be the Mets at Los Angeles to meet the Dodgers. Following this game, As Toronto and Boston battle for the lead in the American League East. No score with 2 out in the 5th inning. And there goes Pena, and the pitch is fouled back.
Well, I like that move simply because Tony Pena, he's not trying to steal a base there. What's happening? He's feeling that Jody Reed is going to make contact. We mentioned the 41 doubles that Jody Reed has thus far this season. 2-2 count. Pitcher's going to try to make it happen on 2-2. Tony Pena starting there at first base. Jody Reed hits the ball in the gap, and it's a run.
Did you see those chains on Pena? If he's in Boston in the offseason, he's going to be in good shape. If it snows, he can just whip him off his neck and put him right on his tires. Enough chains there for the team. Well hit, but foul down the left field line. Still 2-2 with 2 out. Tony was running again, so he's had to stuff it back in his shirt. He'd take about 5-10 pounds off. He'd have a better shot at being safe at second. He's taking the chains off.
I think he's getting one for every year he's been in the big leagues.
You see players that wear a couple of chains during a game, then you see them after the game. They had 6 or 8 more in their locker, or locked up that they didn't wear during the game. Put on afterward. Another 2-2 pitch to Jody Reed, who steps out as Jimmy Key took too much time. Popped up. Foul territory. Gruber and Fernandez going after it. And Tony Fernandez squeezes it for out number 3. Guess what? 1 hit and 1 left for Boston in the 5th. Still no score.
Dave Henderson may be lost to the team for the rest of this year. He's certainly gone for the rest of the regular season. Henderson injured his knee diving for a ball in Chicago on Monday. Today, he had arthroscopic surgery. They hope he can be back for the postseason. Let's get back to Steve and Ray in Toronto at Skydome.
Thank you, John. And as you look at the totals, Toronto with only 1 hit. The ironic thing about it is that so far, Toronto's had all the scoring threats. They've had 5 guys on base because they've been issued 4 walks. The problem is they've left all 5 on base through the first 4 innings. And with runners in scoring position in this game tonight, Toronto is 0 for 7. Meanwhile, Boston has had 4 hits, but nobody in scoring position. No score, bottom of the 5th inning. And Junior Felix leads it off, as he did in the 3rd when he walked and stole a base. Did he go? Yes. I'll tell you what, Dale Ford is tough tonight. I don't agree with either call, the one on Wilson or this one, but he's called them both strikes.
Well, I believe he went a little farther than Mookie. You can see it in his eyes there. He felt that he went. Mookie had a little different idea. He felt that he had not gone, but you could see by the reaction of Junior Felix there that he knew he was fooled, and in his mind, just by that reaction, I think he thought he had gone.
He was looking back like a kid with his hand in a cookie jar who just got caught. I tell you, that is really a tough call, though. There ought to be a way to better define. It's sort of like the strike zone. There's one in the rule book, but every umpire has his own. Well, there's an idea and guidelines for appeal plays to umpires on check swings, but every umpire has his own idea. Slicing a foul and out of play.
Steve, I was when I was with Cincinnati, I used a black bat, and I check swung a couple of times and was called out, and I believe it was John Kibler. I asked, I said, look, I don't believe I'm going. He said, let me tell you something. It's tough to see that black bat. There you see Junior Felix using the black bat.
Quintana to kicker, no. We told you Junior Felix can run. Dana Kicker knew it. The ball was slowly hit, and kicker tried to get over there, but they couldn't make the play.
Just a great example of speed. I don't know why Quintana's over there. A lot tougher play for him. Jody Reed can call him off. They say that Quintana's had a tough time knowing how far to range over there. On a play like that, he doesn't necessarily have to come up with that ball. It's much easier for Jody Reed to field that ball in front of him and make the flip. Quintana going that way hard, stopping, righting himself, and throwing back is very difficult for first baseman to make that lead throw.
And you see, kicker might have gotten there in time, but he missed the bag. He was trying to find the bag and the ball because he didn't have the ball before he got there. Mookie Wilson, base hit right field. Felix stops at second, and the Blue Jays are threatening again. First and second with nobody out.
Well, that shows you what type of team this Toronto Blue Jays are. Mookie Wilson choosing to swing the bat. Cito Gaston giving him the swing, a hit sign instead of a bunt in the 5th inning with no score. I was a little surprised by that, Steve. I thought you'd alluded to the fact that maybe the Red Sox would bunt with 1 out. Cito Gaston choosing not to bunt Mookie Wilson with the heart of his lineup coming up. So that surprised me a little bit.
And Mookie comes through. And Bill Fisher on the phone to the bullpen as they told the Pena to go out and buy a little time with a little chat with kicker. Junior Felix at second and Mookie Wilson at first, nobody out, and with those two guys on base, all the speed you would want out there.
Well, the Red Sox expecting a bunt. Wade Boggs away in, Quintana cheating in a little bit. I would be shocked if he doesn't bunt in this situation.
Tony Fernandez swinging away, and it could be 2. Reed to Rivera, in time to Quintana.
And that's the reason why, Steve. I've seen this happen this year 3 or 4 times. Maybe when I played, I didn't realize it much, but when you get in the 5th inning of a ball game and runners on first and second, with your second place hitter up, with your 3, 4, and 5 hosses coming up there, you have to get those runners over. We mentioned fundamentals. This is a basic fundamental thing. The reason you don't want to hit into double plays. This is the worst thing that can happen. As a manager, you look at the situation, you think, what is the worst thing that can happen? A double play. That leaves you no situation to score a run except with a base hit or a pass ball from third.
And Kelly Gruber skies the first pitch to right field, and again, the Blue Jays threaten but do not score. They had first and second with nobody out. They leave another man in scoring position. Top of the 6th inning here in Toronto, and still no score as Carlos Quintana hits the first pitch on the ground to Tony Fernandez. 1 away here in the 6th. Let's get an update from John Saunders in the studio.
The Angels and the White Sox, Dave Winfield trying to add to a 1-0 lead. Finds the gap, rolls to the wall. Chili Davis comes in to score 2-0. The Angels take the lead over Chicago chasing Oakland. Right now, let's get back to Steve Ray. It's now 3-2 in the 3rd.
Thanks, John. Wade Boggs now takes a good breaking ball from Key for strike 1. Boggs 0 for 2. And is flying deep to left center and grounded to second. One and one. 1 out, nobody on. Blue Jays are wasting opportunities, and the Red Sox, although they've had more hits, haven't really had any opportunities, as they have yet to get a runner to second base. 2 and 1. One thing about Jimmy Key, really has done the job when he has allowed runners on base. 2 and 2 now to Boggs. Three times the Red Sox have had men at first with 1 out, and Key has been able to get the next 2 hitters without the runner advancing. Boggs down the left field line. George Bell gets there. 2 away. This week on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, the Oakland Athletics and the Detroit Tigers from venerable old Detroit Tiger Stadium. Bob Welch is scheduled to pitch. John Miller and Joe Morgan will be there, and take a look at who else will be there. Fred McGriff's in this game, but the rest of those big boppers will be on Sunday Night Baseball, with Cecil leading the charge, and then the Bash brothers from Oakland, who are right behind him in the American League home run race. John Miller and Joe Morgan Sunday night at 8 o'clock here on ESPN. Oakland at Detroit. Ellis Burks has popped out to the shortstop Fernandez twice. Batting with 2 out and nobody on. Ellis Burks does not like to hit against Jimmy Key.
Ouch.
In fact, he has yet to hit against Jimmy Key. He has batted against him, but he has not hit against him.
Well, he's due. Guys like Ellis Burks make adjustments at the plate. Ellis Burks possessing really the 5 strengths: hits for average, hits for power, steals bases, good defensively, and a good throwing arm.
2-2. And he can run. Line drive caught by Gruber. Burks hit it like a frozen rope, but it's out number 3, and the Red Sox go in order in the 6th inning.
Moments ago, we showed you Dave Winfield giving California a 2-0 lead over the White Sox. As we were doing that, Jim Abbott was serving this one up to Carlton Fisk with the bases loaded. It clears them. Bradley comes in. He's followed by Calderon, and Thomas is in with the 3rd run. The White Sox take the lead 3-2. It's now in the 4th. Back to Stephen Ray.
Man, you know why they love Pudge in Chicago. He is still doing it. He's amazing. He and Nolan Ryan ought to get together. Here, no score as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, and George Bell leading it off against Dana Kicker. 1 ball, 1 strike. Bell has struck out and flied to right. A lot of offers tonight. And that's one reason why. Kicker dropped down on Bell, and he did that when he struck him out in the 1st inning. And George with the wild hack for strike 2.
Well, he's just not seeing the ball. He's making up his mind. He's swinging the bat because he is not even close. Look at this. That's ugly.
That's embarrassing. When your rear end goes one way and the bat head goes another, you have little hope. And he gets him with a good downer. Strikeout number 5. I think George thought he got a piece of that ball, but if he did, maybe Pena held on.
Tell you what, with a swing like that, he better go in and sit down.
Yeah, don't be arguing after this.
No, he thought the ball he tipped it, but he did tip it. The umpire said that, but he obviously catches this ball above the ground. See, it hit the mitt without it catching any dirt. Still doesn't matter. If he catches it and it hits the ground, he catches, he's out anyway.
So here's Fred McGriff, who takes high for ball 1. McGriff is grounded to 1st and walked. We showed you those home run leaders. McGriff 4th in the American League with 28. He's missed a little time this year. He might be up there in the 30s already.
Well, you know, last year he led the American League in home runs with 36 and didn't hit any for the last 24 ball games.
Two balls and 1 strike. Kicker has a good sinker working, and against this free swinging Toronto lineup, it's paying dividends.
Well, a lot of times, Steve, when you get late in the ball game, you start looking for that one pitch that you can hit out, and you see a lot of strikeouts, a lot of free swinging, and like you mentioned, it don't have to throw too many pitches out of the strike zone. This team swings a lot of pitches.
Popped up down the left field line. Mike Greenwell over, has room, and makes the catch. 2 out in the 6th inning. We'll go back to the studio for a Baseball Tonight update from John.
Tigers had led this game against the A's 2-0, but Oakland tears them apart. Walt Terrell here to Carney Lansford. Randolph, Gallego, both in with runs. It's now a 6-2 game in the 4th. Back to Stephen Ray.
Teams are learning, if they don't already know, that you can't keep Oakland down very long. Well, here's a guy that is not a free swinger among the Toronto hitters, and that's John Olerud. Olerud has singled to center and grounded to first. He has one of the 3 Toronto base hits. On the inside corner, 1-1. Line drive snared by Rivera. And the inning is over. Toronto goes in order in the 6th inning. Still no score. A lot of zeros in that line score right there. Only 7 hits in the game as we're going to the 7th inning. And a reminder, this is only game 1 of our Friday night doubleheader, and there's game 2. You want to see some more pitching tonight? You may see it. Ramon Martinez for the Dodgers, and the Doctor, Dwight Gooden, on the mound for the Mets. Coming up next, game 2 from Dodger Stadium. The Mets at Los Angeles. So stay with us. Mike Greenwell leads it off for Boston as we go to the 7th and fouls it back for strike 1. Greenwell 1 for 2. He singled to right in the 4th inning. He gets jammed and rolls one to Fred McGriff, who gets it over to Key for out number 1. And that'll bring up the designated hitter for the Red Sox, Mike Marshall, who is also 0 for 2. Marshall is struck out looking and fly deep to left. And he is in with the other guys, most of them sporting offers tonight. Not anymore. A shot to center. That's hit number 5 for the Red Sox, and Boston will have a runner aboard with 1 out.
Well, Mike Marshall loves a fastball out over the plate. Don't like the ball inside, but Jimmy Key throws him that fastball, leads it out over the plate, and he just smoked it right back up the middle. To the guys that are big, you want to throw them inside. You don't want them to get those arms extended. I remember Tom Seaver talking about Jack Clark and his short arms. You look at a hitter, if he has short arms, you better not throw him inside. Those guys that have those long arms.
Like that. As Bruno turns on one and sends it down the line, foul. But not by much. Man, that ball was tagged. But it's strike 1. That sent a ripple through this big crowd in Toronto.
Well, Bruno is very quick inside, but again, that ball's up, out over the plate. Look at Jimmy Key.
He knows that in a ball game like this, that might be the ball game if it's fair. Oh, 1-1. 1-1. Brunansky is grounded to third and struck out.
When I mean inside, Steve, talking to Bill Fisher before the games, he says few pitchers pitch inside. And when I mean inside, you have the ball touching the inside corner of the plate. Off the black, off the plate, which is about 3 inches inside. You don't throw the ball on any part of the plate. hitters have a way to get those hips out of the way and bringing those hands into your body and being able to keep the ball fair. If you get that ball on the inside part of the plate, as you see Galen Cisco, just off the plate, it's impossible to hit that ball hard and hit it fair.
And I think, too, that you see far less pitching inside in the American League than you do in the National League. And maybe that has something to do with the tendency of the American League to pitchers to throw more breaking balls. Galen Cisco for a chat. We'll go back to John Saunders for a chat.
The Reds and the Pirates in the battle of first place teams. Pirates has won 5 straight against the Reds, but Eric Davis here of Doug Drabek in the 6th inning. Bonds can't get to it. 3-2 Cincinnati in the lead in the 6th. Back to Stephen Ray.
Thank you, John. Here a battle of the 1 and 2 teams in the American League East. No score in the top of the 7th inning as Galen Cisco has completed his discussion and will report back to Cito Gaston. Jimmy Key has yet tonight to go to ball 3 on a hitter. And that is an amazing stat. There it's 2-2.
Well, I don't expect Jimmy Key to go back to that fastball unless he throws that ball that really moves away. Tom Brunansky showed you what he could do with a fastball out over the plate. Key went directly to the changeup away and then the big breaking ball.
He goes away and turns the ball over, and it's 3-2. Part of the reason that Galen Cisco went out there, and perhaps the main reason, was to buy time for Dwayne Ward to start throwing and get loose. As Boston has a runner at first and Mike Marshall with 1 out here in the 7th inning.
Good time to send Mike Marshall just on a basic run and hit. If it's a ball, you take it. If it's a strike, you swing it. But Jimmy Key is very, very difficult to run on.
Brunansky struck out on that dead fish on the outside corner again. 4th strikeout for Key.
Well, this is just a great pitch. Watch the bottom drop out of that pitch. He almost turns it over like a screwball. Brunansky, thinking that he's going to come right at him, takes a big swing. Does not make the adjustment to look the other way or look off speed. Or basically look away. It's hard to look off speed, but you can look away and fight that fastball off inside and make you more on the off-speed pitch.
Again, a runner at first with 2 out for Boston, and Tony Pena takes a ball. Pena 1 for 2, had a single to center in the 5th inning. A Boston base runner has yet to go beyond first. Foul back. 1-1.
What happens with a hitter like Brunansky? 3-2. That pitch appears to be a fastball. It's the deception of the pitch. You see great arm motion, and the ball just does not get there. That's what the split finger does. You see the great arm motion, the ball coming out of the hand quickly, but with the ball pinched in between those fingers, the ball comes out with great rotation, not the velocity and movement that goes down.
Consequently, the hitter is way out in front. One ball, 1 strike. Outside again. 2-1.
Tony Pena got off to a great start, was the talk of the baseball world with his leadership and his hot bat in April, hitting over 400. And has really struggled with that bat, hitting only .213 over the last 4 months.
It's really tough for catchers to hit well consistently, though, because of the tough job they have to do. Their hands are always sore, their knees can be sore, legs get heavy, and Pena, who injured his wrist after that hot start has never really been the same since the wrist injury.
And Joe Morgan said that he doesn't care if he hits 200. He's still a candidate for the most valuable player on this ball club because of his attitude, the way that he works the pitchers. Every once in a while you'll see him throw a bullet back to a pitcher. He did it while ago in the 4th inning with Dana Kicker when he's not too happy with the results of a pitch.
No, he puts a little exclamation point on it when he feels he has to. Jimmy Key has thrown 88 pitches now to this point, and that's not very many for 2 out in the 7th inning. There's that little dead fish pitch on the outside. It's a wonder that ball gets all the way to the catcher's mitt. He throws it so slowly. And now, as we mentioned before, he had not had any 3-ball counts. This is the 2nd in a row. Bernansky, he had 3-2, and now it's 3-2 to Pena. There goes Marshall, and Pena drives it deep to left. George Bell back, makes the catch short of the wall. Another inning with 1 hit and 1 left at first for Boston. Well, 7th inning, still no score, and man, Tony Pena put a little scare in the Blue Jays and the crowd here.
He sure did. Jimmy Key wasn't sure. This ball just had a little bit too much elevation. He knew that he got away with a pitch right over the heart of the plate. And Tony Pena, knowing he just missed it.
Had he gotten under that ball just a minute fraction of a millimeter, he would have left the yard. But he hit it right on the nose. And you can see Jimmy Key, he didn't watch the ball. He went right to George Bell.
He sure
Watch
did.
that outfielder. There's a ball fair down the right field line by Myers. He will have a double as the ball is touched in the corner. And the Blue Jays come right back and put the go-ahead run in scoring position with nobody out.
Well, Manny Lee has 2 choices. Danny Kicker, fastball up. One of the few times Danny Kicker has gotten that fastball up. Greg Myers just roped it down the right field line. Kenny Williams, a pinch runner at second base.
So Cito Gaston going for the speed. And now an infield meeting as Pena calls in Reed. They're going to have to talk about a sequence of signs with a runner at second base, but they're also going to talk about a couple other things, as well as, I think, buy a little time for the bullpen to get going. We are in the 7th inning. Kicker has pitched very well. He has allowed now just 4 hits. He has struck out 5. He has walked 4. And although the Blue Jays have had threats, they have left 6 on base. Now, will they have Manny Lee bunting in an effort to get the pinch runner Kenny Williams over to third with 1 out? A pitch out and they throw through, but Williams gets back. Last night, Boston put on the rotation play wherein the shortstop goes to third on this play when there's a sacrifice, and they got the runner at third.
It's really tough to do it when there's a tag play at third. It's a lot easier when there's a force play. With a tag play, with that third baseman charging in and that shortstop having to catch the ball and make the tag play, if you have a runner at second base, it goes with the shortstop. It's very difficult. The only alternative to that, if that runner at second starts to cheat with the shortstop, and you come in behind him with the second baseman and make the pickoff play that way.
You see, the Blue Jays don't do this very often, and that may be one reason why they're not as successful. Now the rotation play is on, and the bunt is fouled off by Manny Lee.
Well, let's go over what you can do on defense here. The rotation play or the wheel play is when the third baseman charges, the shortstop goes over. This is what we have here. Watch the third baseman come straight in. The pitcher has his responsibility, and the shortstop goes to cover third. Then the other plays are the shortstop with daylight behind the runner. Then the shortstop leaves to go to third baseman. The second baseman takes the pickoff, and then the pitch out pickoff play at second base from the catcher. The other alternative is third baseman to stay at home and the pitcher cover the line.
Kicker will go to third, and they get Kenny Williams. That time, they did not put the rotation play on, and Wade Boggs stay there. Kicker made a good play to get him.
Well, they just failed to do the fundamental thing. When the third baseman stays home, you must bunt the ball down the third baseline hard. This ball is bunted right back out toward the pitcher's mound, giving kicker an opportunity to make the play. You have to make the third baseman feel the ball. If the ball is bunted toward the line, the third baseman goes and gets that ball, makes the play at first. Wade Boggs, seeing that the ball was back toward the shortstop or right at the pitcher, went back to the bag, and a great play by Danny Kicker.
Manny Lee reaches on the fielder's choice with the unsuccessful sacrifice attempt, and Junior Felix will be the hitter. 1 out. It might have been a pitch out. I don't know. A semi pitch out, it appeared to be. Ball 1. Junior has singled and walked, stolen a base. No score. We're in the bottom of the 7th with 1 out. Slice down the left field line. Greenwell makes the catch and may have hurt himself in the process. Mike Greenwell goes back down to one knee after sliding on the turf and picking that ball right off the top of the artificial surface.
Well, Greenwell gets a great jump on this ball. This is very difficult. The ball slicing away from him, and that AstroTurf is not very forgiving as he hits that left knee right on that turf. Comes up and look, he comes up here. Look at his play. But he comes up, and the neat thing about it, he comes up and hits Jody Reed with a strike. Or Luis Rivera, excuse me, the shortstop with a strike.
So now there are 2 out. Manny Lee remains at first for Mookie Wilson. And a strike call. Mookie tonight is 1 for 2 plus a walk and a stolen base. Right to third and by Boggs. Boggs unable to come up with it as it appeared that he was handcuffed by the ball, trying to backhand it. And runners at first and second. It's a base hit for Wilson.
Well, very tough to have a left-handed batted ball as a third baseman because the ball is going away, but the ball hit the seam. There's seams on the AstroTurf where it comes together with the dirt. You get very erratic hops.
Now again, the Blue Jays have the go-ahead run in scoring position, and Tony Fernandez, the hitter, who is 0 for 3. He has flied to center, flied to right, and grounded into a double play. A looper to left. Greenwell was playing shallow, and it's an easy out, number 3. 2 hits in the inning, but 2 left aboard. Still no score after 7. A new battery for the Toronto Blue Jays, and we'll see if it dies hard or not. Dwayne Ward on to do the pitching. Pat Borders takes over behind the plate for Myers, who was pinch run for. And Jimmy Key replaced by Dwayne Ward after going 7 innings and throwing 90 pitches in a scoreless game.
Well, Dwayne Ward is 2-6 this year and has really struggled with his control. He has a great fastball that has been clocked at 97 miles an hour this year. He's a power pitcher, There you see 97 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts. Last year, in 114 innings, he led the American League relievers in strikeouts with 122 Ks. To complement that fastball, he has a slider and a changeup. But the key for him is to throw strikes. He has a tendency to get behind a lot of hitters, and then they just sit on that fastball.
Luis Rivera will be the first hitter he faces here in the 8th inning, and then the top of the order, Jody Reed and Carlos Quintana. Rivera tonight 1 for 2, single to center in the 3rd inning, and struck out looking in the 5th. Rounded up the middle. Tony Fernandez, and 1 away. Dwayne Ward will give the hitters a little different look than Jimmy Key, as you mentioned, Ray. He fires it up there, and that pitch was 93 miles an hour. So he's going to be with a fastball 5 to 6 miles an hour faster than Key. Jody Reed 0 for 3 tonight, has popped out twice and flied to right. Strike 1. And that's what you want from your relief pitchers. Strike 1. Strike 2. That's also what you want from your relief pitcher.
Well, Steve, the reason for that is, as a reliever, you come in, you see the batting order maybe one time, sometimes twice, but a hitter does not have that many opportunities to see a reliever. A guy like Dwayne Ward, a starter, you'll see him 3 or 4 times in a game, sometimes 15, 20 times a season. So you have an idea of what he throws. A reliever, you don't get to see a lot of pitches, so what you try to do is get ahead in the count, work the count, get a good pitch to hit, see as many pitches as possible so you can learn that velocity, the movement, and the rotation and the break of his breaking ball.
One reason that pitch was fouled off the other way was because, as you look at Carlos Quintana on deck, was because it was 96 miles an hour. Tough to get the bad head out in front. This time Jody hits it up the middle, and again it's a chance for Fernandez, who makes the play 2 out. ESPN's Baseball Tonight continues on Tuesday night here on ESPN, as the Boston Red Sox will be in Cleveland to take on the Indians. Some of you will see Los Angeles at Philadelphia beginning at 7:30, and then game 2 of the doubleheader will find Detroit at Seattle. Some of you will see Texas at California, scheduled to get underway at 10:30. That's our Tuesday night Major League Baseball doubleheader here on ESPN. Carlos Quintana with 2 out, nobody on, takes low, ball 1. Carlos tonight 1 for 3, single to center back in the 1st inning. And a strike call. Quintana didn't think it was a strike. But they have yet to add to the rule book that hitter's agreement is required. Little slider fouled off. 1 and 2.
If you don't think velocity means something to a pitcher, Carlos Quintana has been staying back, really waiting on the ball extremely well. Now I'm starting to see his front shoulder fly a little bit. Sometimes when you have great respect for that pitcher's fastball, you try to help it out, and the first thing you do it with is that front shoulder.
Which is counterproductive. Did he go too far? Yes. Dwayne Ward retires the side in order in the 8th inning, picking up the strikeout and maintaining a scoreless game.
In Montreal, the Expos and the Padres, Andy Bennis with a 2-0 lead until Tim Raines just one-hands this ball out to right field. Gwynn back on it, but he can't get to it. 2-1. So yes, they do score runs in Canada tonight. Back to Stephen Ray.
Away in the ball. It's a little northeast of here. That run scoring ability hasn't shown up here yet. as it's nothing bottom of the 8th inning, and Kelly Gruber leading it off takes inside for ball 1. Gruber tonight is 0 for 3. He has struck out, grounded out, and fly down. 1-1. You look at this crowd here and you say, well, of course this series is big, it's sold out and everything. These guys are sold out all the time. This is the 48th consecutive sellout in the Sky Dome, and they're sold out the rest of the year. Strike 2, 1-2. They just support this team regardless, and with this beautiful facility to come to, it's no wonder they're sold out all the time. Night like tonight, they roll the roof back and everybody enjoys the nice air, and if it's inclement weather, you got controlled environment. And you can spend the night if you have to. They will go over 3 million here in Toronto for the season tomorrow. 3 million, and we are not to September yet. Look at their average. Over 47,000 a game.
I talked to a couple of people tonight, a couple of the ushers, and they said that they felt that next year they will go and eclipse the 4 million mark.
Unbelievable. Now look at that. That's way in the upper deck in the outfield, and those are filled. Even the cheapies have behinds in them. 2-2 now to Gruber.
I wonder if the attendance counts those people viewing from the rooms.
I don't know.
I wonder about it.
I don't think so. I think it's tickets sold for seats in the ballpark. Ripped foul.
I mean, those guys out there in center field and ladies, they're in the ballpark. They're just a pain separating them.
Yep.
I just wonder if, well, you talked about the exorbitant prices. I guess that's not included. I guess you have to be, as you say, seated.
Another good thing about this ballpark is that those cheap seats, not those seats in the restaurant bar up there, but the cheap seats we showed you earlier are only $4 for a ticket. And there isn't a bad seat in this place because there are no obstructed views or anything. 3-2 again. Drive right at kicker, who somehow caught the ball without it killing him. A rocket right into his glove for out number 1. Pena is coming out to do 2 things. Make sure kicker's all right and kid him about it.
Well, he's lucky this isn't up around his head somewhere. This is a bullet. Just happens to be right there where his glove is. I mean, that's right where his glove finishes up. That ball caught him instead of him catching it. Acts like, yeah, just routine, right, Dana?
Meanwhile, his life just passed before his eyes. You can kid about it as long as nobody's hurt. And he was fortunate. George Bell, 0 for 3, has struck out twice and flied to right. Each team with 5 hits, but no runs, and we're in the bottom of the 8th inning. 2 balls and no strikes, and Bell wants umpire Tim Welke to check out the baseball. Skies it in the infield. Jody Reed calling. 2 out in the 8th inning, and we go back to John Saunders for an update.
Rob Dibble of the Reds with Belliard on second, got there on a pass ball. Jose Lean of the Pirates punches it out to right field. Belliard trips coming around third, but still gets in to score, and it ties the game at 3. That's where they stand in the 7th. Back to Stephen Ray.
Thanks, John. George Bell's reaction to popping out.
Well, he couldn't have asked for a better pitch to hit in a better situation. 2-0 after swinging wildly his previous 2 times at bat. That breaking ball got a fastball right in his wheelhouse, and maybe, just maybe, in the back of his mind, he wasn't quite as aggressive as he had been had he not swung at all those bad pitches prior.
Now, you go up there sometimes after at bats like that thinking, I'm not going to strike out. I'm not going to overswing. Fred McGriff is 0 for 2 plus a walk, and the count now 2-1. The toughest thing I think about hitting, Ray, is that you've got to be patiently aggressive. You've got to wait and then try to be quick. You've got to be out in front and stay back at the same time. Well, there are a lot of contradictory things you have to do to hit well.
I think Ted Kluszewski had the best theory that I've seen. Very simple. Keep your shoulder up the middle and get the bat out front. What he meant by that was you don't slow the bat down by moving your shoulder off the ball. As you see Gene Tennis there, the hitting coach for the Blue Jays, along with Galen Cisco, the pitching coach, on the left.
3-2 pitch, hit on the ground to short. Luis Rivera guns down McGriff, and the inning is over as Toronto goes in order in the 8th. We will go to the 9th, still in a scoreless tie. Storyline tonight, and look at the zeros on that board. The story is pitching. Dana Kicker has been able to keep the Toronto Blue Jays from doing the damage when they've had men in scoring position. The Blue Jays 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position, and Jimmy Key did not even allow a runner to get in scoring position. The pitchers have been in control. Dwayne Ward is now on in relief of Key as we go to the 9th inning. Dana Kicker has done a great job in a role that he was not expected to fill when the season began, and on a night when he was really not projected originally to pitch. Roger Clemens was scheduled to go, and with the tightness in Clemens' shoulder, Kicker only throwing 23 pitches his last outing. Joe Morgan and Bill Fisher bringing him back on 3 days rest, and man, he has done a good job tonight. Here in the 9th, Boston will have Wade Boggs, Ellis Burks, and Mike Greenwell to face Dwayne Ward. Boggs 0 for 3 has flied to left twice and grounded to second. Inside, ball 1.
Steve, this is a guy that this is the type guy that Wade Boggs really hits hard. Dwayne Ward does not have really anything off speed. Basically everything he throws is fairly hard. His fastball is extremely hard, his slider hard, occasional changeup, but basically a 2-pitch pitcher. And once Wade Boggs times you, he laces that ball to left field so well. He likes those hard throwers. He actually likes the ball inside and inside outs at the left field.
Now, guys who always want to pull the ball can be a little intimidated by a guy who can throw 96 miles an hour, because they're really concerned about hitting everything to their side of second base.
Well, that's the biggest mistake that hitters do. They always think you have to pull the fastball, but that fastball will jump. All you have to do is just make contact. Timing is the key in anything you do. You make contact and you hit those doubles to left field.
Wade Boggs with a base hit to left field off the fastball. I mean, here's a guy with a .352 career batting average. It certainly has worked for him.
Looks like other people would realize that you can make a lot of money by hitting the ball the other way. I think he and Tony Gwynn are the best 2 I've seen during my career, Rod Carew being another guy. George Brett had a tendency to pull more balls, but you get him behind the count or get him with a real good fastball pitcher, and he could hit the ball the other way at will.
So now the Red Sox have yet another runner at first base. Remember, they have not had a runner to second. And here's Ellis Burks 0 for 3 and a pitch out. Now, Wade Boggs has not attempted a stolen base. That's not what they're looking for. They're trying to find out if Boston has any type of play on it, hit and run, a bunt, whatever, to get the runner over.
Well, Ellis Burks is a great bunter. In the last 3 years, in 34 attempts to drag bunt for a base hit, he's been successful 20 times. So he likes to bunt, excellent at dragging that ball down the third baseline.
Hitting away, and he hits it in the air to right field. Manny Lee going out makes the play for out number 1. And we have seen Joe Morgan tonight eschew the bunt and the hit and run on numerous occasions, and there's still a runner at first base.
Well, I've always said, why do you make this game so complicated? It's obvious you need one run to win a ball game or to put something on the board. Still have the middle of your lineup hitting again. I just don't understand not getting that runner over in the 9th inning with your 4th place hitter or 5th place hitter on deck. If that guy can't drive in a run, you're in trouble anyway.
Yep, and as you just said, you got a guy up there who's probably the best bunter on the team. Mike Greenwell grounds one by Lee into right field, and there goes the runner Boggs for third. The throw not in time and not on line, and a good play by Gruber to knock it down. Now it doesn't seem to matter because the Red Sox have runners at first and third, and Toronto got John Candelaria up in the bullpen as a left-handed pitcher, but chose not to bring him in to face the left-handed hitting Greenwell.
Well, that's because you've got so many right-handed hitters backing Greenwell up, but I do think that it hurts because if the runner gets on second base, that same ball is a base hit, and you have a 1-run lead. First and third, yes, an ideal hitting situation, an offensive situation, but it does not mean that the Boston Red Sox are going to score a run. You have Wade Boggs on second via the bunt, and now that's a base hit and it scores a run.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now Cisco is out, as the hitter will be Mike Marshall, a right-handed hitter. And Boggs at third base, the first base runner for Boston to go beyond first. And here we are in the 9th inning.
And two, thinking a little deeper, as you see Cito Gaston, if they bunt and get Boggs to second, Ellis Burks is out, then they're going to have to pitch to Greenwell because they're not going to bring in Candelaria in a situation like that to face Greenwell unless you're going to get him out, because now Candelaria will have to face 3 right-handers in a row. So it's a chess game going on down there now, but
then if you're not going to do that, why do you get him up and have him throwing?
I don't have any clue.
Marshall 1 for 3.
The only thing that you do in that situation, if he's the man that you want to get Greenwell out, if they bind him over, which probably Gaston assumed they were going to do, then you bring him in to pitch to one guy, and then you bring Hinkie in or whomever else they have in the bullpen to face the right-handed hitters. But you only bring Candelaria in for 1 out to get 1 man out.
And you're probably right. That's why he didn't use him, is because they didn't bunt Boggs to second. Strike 2 to Marshall. Runners at first and third with 1 out. Dwayne Ward in relief of Jimmy Key, who pitched 7 strong innings.
And Toronto's defense, so you see they're playing back for the double play. Gruber playing back. Second baseman, shortstop, normal double play depth.
Base hit left field, and the Red Sox will take the lead 1-0 as Boggs comes home. Marshall picking up his 4th RBI since joining Boston.
Well, 1-2 pitch, fastball down and in, pretty good pitch, but the ball's over the plate too much. It's never a good pitch when the hitter can get the barrel of the bat on the ball. When you're ahead in a situation like that, you have to make a quality pitch. A lot of people say down and in, as you see Joe Morgan react, but that's the easiest place to get the barrel of the bat to the ball.
Tom Brunansky takes ball 1. Bruno tonight is 0 for 3. He is grounded to third and struck out twice.
Up and in, down and away are the best 2 places to throw right-handed hitters or even left-handed hitters for that matter. You start getting down and in, and it's very easy to drop that bat barrel right down on that ball. You get that ball up, belt high and in, it's very hard to get on top of it and get the extension you need to hit the ball hard.
There's that high fastball you can't get on top of. 2-1. What you do down and in is you just in effect speed up a guy's bat for him.
Absolutely. You just drop that bat barrel down. It's just like chopping wood. You just drop it right down on there. You can shorten your swing by dropping those hands into the body and just Tommy hawking that ball with the top hand. You can't do that on a pitch high and in.
A little bit high there. This time Bruno laid off.
Right out over the middle of the plate, though.
Tony Pena on deck. We told you earlier Toronto was 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Boston is now 1 for 1 with runners in scoring position. Fouled off. The first time they've had a runner in scoring position was Boggs at third, and he scored on Marshall's single. Now runners at first and second with one out.
And you see what we're talking about, Steve? Dwayne Ward has gone basically with all fastballs in a situation like this. Instead of mixing up the breaking ball, the changeup, the fastball, like Jimmy Key, he's gone basically to all hard stuff. A lot of times hard throwers will go directly to that hard stuff when they get in trouble.
A looping base hit into left center field. Mike Greenwell's going to score as the ball gets by George Bell, and Mike Marshall's able to go all the way to third. And Bell, who has heard plenty of boos here in Toronto, will hear some more now. 2-0 Boston. That is the fourth hit of the inning for the Red Sox.
And look at this, another fastball inside, but a little bit up. Brunansky just fights it off with George Bell here. I don't know what he does. He olays it. I guess he thinks he's bullfighting. Boy. See there again, fundamental things are catching and throwing the baseball. Not just bunting, getting guys over, but catching and throwing the baseball is a fundamental thing.
Bell is charged with an error that allows Marshall to go from second to third after the base hit by Brunansky, his 50th RBI of the year. Ball one, the count to Pena with runners at first and third and still only one out. Infield in for Toronto. Pena to bunt, he pops it up. Boy, for a minute, Pat Borders could not find the ball. His first instinct, as with all catchers, is to go back. But the ball was actually in fair territory. He recovered in time to make out number 2.
Just a suicide squeeze. You see Brunansky's Marshall head in there. Pitch a little up. Just doesn't get on top. Toughest pitch to bunt is that high fastball.
Boston trying to squeeze home the third run, and Marshall scrambling back to third. So here's Luis Rivera with 2 out. He's 1 for 3. Did he hold up? Yes. Ball one. Red Sox have been getting runners on board in 5 of the first 8 innings, but never got one past first base. And here in the 9th, they put together 4 hits to score 2 runs. Well hit to center. Mookie Wilson on the run, gets there, and the inning is over. 2 runs on 4 hits as we go to the bottom of the 9th. And we're going to the bottom of the 9th here. Boston scoring 2 in the top of the 9th, and Jeff Gray is on in relief of Dana Kicker, who now stands to be the winning pitcher. Can Gray save it for him?
Well, what you're going to see in Jeff Gray, a lot of split fingers, a fastball and a slider, and he takes a lot of time. Talk about Carlton Fisk being the human rain delay. Mike Hargrove. This kid takes a long time between pitches.
Red Sox fans have made the trip for the weekend, and they will be cheering loud and hard, although it'll be hard to hear them to any great degree. They're greatly outnumbered as John Olerud leads off the bottom of the 9th inning and looks at a strike.
Steve, that was a split finger there. He's got that fastball, about 85 miles an hour, and a split finger. And throw for strikes. Olerud now, his prime objective is just to get on base somehow to get that tying run to the plate.
Fouled off. 1-2. A little quiet in the Blue Jays dugout. They faced Dana Kicker before here in Toronto, and Kicker has now thrown 16 2/3 innings against the Blue Jays here in the Sky Dome without giving up a run. Toronto scored in the bottom of the ninth to win it last night, and they're looking to rally again, but Olerud is punched out of there on a rare called third strike for him.
Well, Gray shows him two split fingers and comes back with a fastball. Perfect location, knee high, inside black. Not a whole lot he can say about that pitch. That's just a perfect pitch right there, right across his kneecap, the inside part of the black.
So here's Pat Borders now to face Jeff Gray. Borders batting for the first time. And he takes a strike. Borders hitting .300 with 14 home runs and 42 RBIs. And the 14 home runs, a career high for him. One and one.
You mentioned that only in 277 bats has Pat Borders hit those 14 home runs, along with 20 doubles and a triple. Slugging percentage of .531 would rank him in the top 5 in the American League if he had enough at bats.
They're hoping he'll get an extra base hit right here too, although base runners are what they need. And he takes low, so it's 2-1. Boston didn't have many chances, but they cashed him in. Toronto has had a lot. They have yet to make a trip to the bank. Now they're just trying to get somebody on to bring the tying run to the plate. Ground ball to short. Easy play for Rivera, and 2 out in the bottom of the ninth. Rance Mullinix is out as a pinch hitter, and he will bat for Manny Lee as the final hope to keep it going for the Blue Jays. Mullinix hitting .284 with a home run and 9 RBIs. Check out that on-base average, outstanding at .430. So Cito looking for somebody who could maybe at least get a walk. So what does he do? He swings at the first pitch.
I talked to Rance for about 30 minutes before the ball game. Talking about one of the guys that gave me the information about the Blue Jays not being fundamentally sound. Has a lot of good ideas about hitting. He's one of those guys that looks for one pitch.
Grounded foul, and he's in the hole 0-2 now.
Both of those pitches, fastballs away. Rance obviously going up there looking for that fastball out over the plate.
But now he and Toronto faced with the prospect of losing back the game they gained by winning last night, as they have but a strike remaining to keep the game going. One ball, 2 strikes. A reminder, as soon as we're through here in the Sky Dome, the Mets and the Dodgers from Los Angeles. That game scheduled to get underway in about 10 minutes. And we'll be throwing you out that way as soon as we're through here. There it is. Jeff Gray comes in and retires a side in order in the bottom of the ninth with 2 strikeouts to pick up his 5th save. And Dana Kicker, who has had the Blue Jays number this year, is now 5-6 as he goes a strong 8 innings. Dwayne Ward, in relief of Jimmy Key, who pitched well, takes the loss, and Ward is now 2-7. And Ray, the Red Sox keep repelling challenge after challenge, and we said it in the beginning. How do they do it? They showed us tonight.
Well, they sure did. Just a good, solid ball game, well-pitched ball game. Again, an unsung hero in Gray coming in and getting the save from the bullpen. Dana Kicker picked a great ball game, but when they had the opportunity to drive and run, they did. Toronto, on the other hand, 11 opportunities and failed to get runners over, failed to score runners with sacrifice flies. And that's the difference in the ball game.
Well, the Dome was open tonight, but the lead has also opened a little bit more, as now Toronto trails again by 2. They're 3 back in the loss column, and you see the games remaining with 5 games left between these 2 teams this season. For Ray Knight, Steve Zabriskie saying so long from the Sky Dome. Let's go back to John Saunders.
Thanks a lot, Stephen Ray. You really have to think that this was the pivotal game for the Boston Red Sox. They now know, regardless of what happens in the remaining 2 games of the series, they will leave Toronto in at least a tie for first place. So this is a very important game, and Dana Kicker doing the job for them tonight. Second half of your doubleheader comes your way in about 5 minutes' time. We'll get it out to Dodger Stadium. Should be a good one. The Mets and the Dodgers both in second place in their respective divisions. Dwight Gooden against Ramon Martinez. They met last week and both got hit hard, but you expect a good pitching matchup there. Gary Thorne and Norm Hitzges come your way in just a moment. But first, let's show some scores and highlights before we get you out to Dodger Stadium. We'll start at Tiger Stadium in Detroit, where the Oakland A's are trying to add to their lead in the American League West, facing the Tigers and Walt Terrell. Cecil Fielder, though, leading the major leagues in runs batted in, facing Scott Sanderson. Down the line and left, Tony Phillips comes in to score. 103 runs batted in on the season now for Cecil Fielder. 1-0 is the score. The A's in the pennant race. Ron Hasse is in the race for the ball, going into the stands where you need a ticket. Doesn't come up with it, but a good effort just the same. A's break through in the third. Felix Jose infield single scores Mark McGuire. Game is tied at 2. And then in the fourth, it comes unraveled for Walt Terrell. Carney Lansford, bases loaded, pulls it out into left field. Willie Randolph comes in to score. Mike Gallego follows him. Lansford gets into second. Terrell giving up 6 earned runs in just 3 innings pitched. Ron Hasse and Carney Lansford, 2 runs batted in apiece for Oakland. Scott Sanderson going on looking for his 13th victory of the year. The Angels and the White Sox. Of course, we want to remind you that you can see Oakland and Detroit at 8 o'clock Eastern time on our Sunday Night Baseball. Cecil Fielder looking for his 40th home run of the year. The Angels and the White Sox now. Top of the third, Angels leading 1-0. Dave Winfield lashes the double to left center. Ivan Calderon after it, but he can't get to it. Chili Davis scores from first. Angels up 2-0. Bottom of the third, bases loaded. Carlton Fisk sends this one to the gap. It will clear the bases. Phil Bradley comes in. Ivan Calderon follows him. Frank Thomas is in as well. The White Sox on top 3-2. Carlos Martinez at bat, 2 outs, runner on second. Donnie Hill runs from nowhere, makes the over-the-shoulder grab down the right field line. Comes up with the ball, falls over his teammate, ends the inning 3-2. Wayne Edwards having an easy time against the Angels. Gets Lee Stevens swinging to end the inning. Sox leading at 3-2. It is now in the 7th inning as they're chasing the A's, and it looks like the A's will have the win. Carlton Fisk, 3 runs batted in on the bases loaded double. Wayne Edwards has won his 2 previous starts. Looking for another victory in this one against Abbott. The Baltimore Orioles and Cleveland Indians. Cal Ripken Jr. on his birthday, 2 runs batted in for the O's. Schilling is now on for the Orioles. They're up by 1 run. It's 4-3 in the 8th. Minnesota and Texas. Guthrie in for Minnesota. Jim Barfield pitching now, right in for Minnesota. Scoreless in the 7th inning. Texas, rather. Barfield is on in the 6th inning, but it's in the 7th now. Guthrie, 21 earned runs in his last 39 2/3. The Twins on a 7-game losing streak. Seattle and Kansas City. The Mariners have added another run. 3-0 is the score in the 6th inning. Alvin Davis' solo home run for Seattle. Milwaukee and the Yankees. The Milwaukee Brewers ended the Yankees' 6-game winning streak last night at Yankee Stadium. Milwaukee run was scored on a missed third strike. Mark Knudsen looking for his 10th victory. Dan Plesac is now on in the 8th inning trying to nail down the save. Stay with us. We come back, we will have National League scores in just a moment.